The president is the CEO of America. The United States is a business, right? We've gone from being very conservatively financed to approaching over-leverage. The governance structure is inherently dysfunctional. They called up Eliot Spitzer, who was the then presiding Attorney General of New York, and said, look, there's an evil guy saying that we don't deserve our AAA rating. And Moody's and S&P say we're AAA. Who's this guy? We made $1.6 billion or $700 million. I personally made $150 million.
Suppose you were in government. What part of government would you be in, and what would be your mandate?
So, not sure I'm ready to go into government. A lot of downside associated with that. Look, there will come a point in time. Hopefully, there will not come a point in time. That's a better way to say it, where where I won't be frustrated with how our government is run, that I'll feel I need to do something about it. But I think that the business community globally has stepped out of government to too great an extent. And I think the consequences, so I think the typical sort of point of view in the United States has always been, well, our government's not that particularly well run, but, it's such a great country that it doesn't really matter. And I think it's increasingly matters. So if you think about, the United States as a business, right, we've gone from being very conservatively financed to approaching over-leverage. The governance structure is inherently dysfunctional in terms of our ability to make decisions about even meeting our contractual obligations to our bondholders. The fact that we had a debt ceiling crisis only a couple of weeks ago is a perfect example. That we imagine launching a business appealing to like 100 million new customers, and the website going down the first day and not working for like a month. Okay, imagine if that happened in the private sector. Would anyone keep their job that worked for that business? I think that our government has not shown itself particularly effective at things business, and I think the running of the country, a huge part of that is the president is the CEO of America, and he's responsible ultimately for how the website works. It's like Jeff Bezos. The website goes down, you don't blame the CTO, you blame Jeff Bezos, and I think that what I like about what I do is we can work to make business more effective, and at some point it'll be time for someone to take my spot, and the question is whether I can be helpful on government. And I don't know what the right role would be, but it's tough. Having been, the benefit of where I am now is the buck stops with me. The question is whether I want to work for someone else. And so I guess I either have to be CEO or maybe I have to find something else to do.
Okay. We're waiting for the post of CEO USA here, so that's coming.
They should have that post. There should be the president, then there should be the guy who runs the business of the country.
Or chief operating officer.
Seriously.
So we'll suggest that next time.
The president can shake hands, he can attend funerals.
Okay. There you go.
Someone should run the country here. So about 11 years ago, I came out with a white paper called Is MBIA AAA, where I questioned the AAA rating of a company called MBIA. I disclosed on page 1 of that report that I had shorted the stock and bought CDS, a kind of an insurance product betting on the company's credit deterioration, and caused a bit of a stir with this paper. The company did not like the paper, and they, as the largest guarantor of New York State and city bonds, decided they wanted to get back at me, and they called up Eliot Spitzer, who was the then presiding Attorney General of New York, and said, look, there's an evil guy saying that we don't deserve our AAA rating, and Moody's and S&P say we're AAA. Who's this guy? And Moody's and S&P would later lose some credibility after this, but this was a 150 to 1 levered company. It was guaranteeing a whole sort of very risky subprime CDO, CDO squared, CDO cubed, and so on and so forth. And it was insolvent based on the exposures, and a good analyst digging deeply could determine that. And I came public with this, and I was largely ignored. And I kept at it because I'm a persistent guy. And I made a series of presentations. I'll see if I remember some of the names of them. But anyway, so I made a series of presentations. And no one was really paying attention. The stock was 73. The insurance just kept getting cheaper and cheaper, meaning no one believed that we were right. And one day at my last presentation, I said, oh, by the way, no one ever believes me on this one. They say, well, you're short, so how can we believe you? Because you're going to profit if it declines. So I said at a conference, I said, okay, I hereby commit to give away 100% of any personal profit I make from this investment. That day was the high for the stock, and it went from $73 to $3 a share. And the credit protection went from 13 basis points to 2,500. We made $1.6 billion or $700 million. I personally made $150 million. And the $150 million seeded was really maybe the second or third grant, but the big grant that created the Pershing Square Foundation. So the Oxford program is an indirect beneficiary of the failure of MBIA.
Thank you. The failure of the financial system actually has a silver lining. I love that.
So the problem with short selling is it's something that, even though it's perfectly legal, it's something that people have a degree of discomfort with. You know, it's almost perceived as un-American to bet against a company. And we, by the way, only do it in very rare circumstances, and generally only when we believe when it's good for America or good for the world for the company to disappear.